Thank you so much for keeping it KTN Farmers TV. This is Get It Right. I'm your host, Susan Mwangi. On today's topic, we are discussing about contract farming. And to help us understand more about contract farming is Daniel Sinket, who is a farmer and also an expert when it comes to contract farming. So Daniel, before we went on our break, we were discussing about the advantages of contract farming, but I believe there is always a flip side. Enlighten us on that.
Well, for everything with advantage, there is some disadvantages. I can say that the disadvantages are less than the advantages, in that disadvantages come when especially there is a production of that produce, let's say either outside the country or within the country, because some of these things are not controlled at all. Production is not controlled. So at times when maybe you're producing tomatoes for the local market, then all of a sudden there is an influx of tomatoes from outside. So you're left with that produce. You have nowhere else to take. So that becomes a problem with the contract. And again, when the prices go down, the same. Because the person who has contracted you to buy, if he's not able to sell, then he leaves everything with you. And then another thing is, at times, the market price can be so good. But because you signed a contract with him, you cannot be able to get to fetch an additional price, or you cannot sell to somebody else who is able to give you more. Okay? So you're just forced to sell to that person on the contracted price, even though the market is fetching good price.
So there is something that has caught my attention. You said that sometimes maybe the person who contracted you, they may have or encounter a market, do we call it a market crash, or maybe there is a market failure at that particular time and they could leave you with the produce. But isn't the contract binding?
Following sometimes for them to either buy or compensate might be a bit difficult. So you're likely to get into trouble, or you're likely to spend more, even following to be paid for what is destroyed in the farm. So at times you find that it's better just to accept that little loss as opposed to following it up. Yeah.
So there is also something else you mentioned about where the supplier, the contractors will provide farm inputs, production services and all that. But all this, I believe it's on credit. So is this a good thing to the farmer or a bad thing? Because I want to believe by the time the farmer is getting paid, there will be so much of, cut costing, for the provisions they were given, and maybe what they are getting back is very little. Is it a good or a bad thing? How would you explain that?
It is good. It is good. The only problem is if the person giving you the seed or whatever inputs takes advantage of the price. They will not ask you how much you want to buy those goods from. They will dictate the price for you. If it's a seed, they'll tell you that this seed at the market is going at this price. But if you are allowed to buy those goods outside, you're likely to get them at a lesser price, at a lesser cost. So that's the only disadvantage. Otherwise, it is good, especially if a farmer doesn't have enough money to buy and for investment, But if he is able to buy from elsewhere, to get this produce or to get the seeds from another source, as opposed from the supplier or from the person who is contracting him, then the better. Because he will take advantage of the price. Yes.
So at what point would a farmer's produce be rejected? Do we have such incidents?
There are times when produce can be rejected, especially if you produce goods that do not meet the quality. So they can be rejected. They can as well be rejected if sometimes you overproduce. You're supposed to produce a ton, but you are there producing 1.5, and you want to ship all of them. So they can be rejected. The ones on top can be rejected. There are times you can also underproduce, which can be so costly for the person who is buying from you. It can be so costly to come for them. Let's say you're supposed to make a ton, but you are only able to produce 200 kilos. You see, that's under production, so they can be rejected. You can be told, no, we are not coming for that unless you produce. Or they can as well be rejected if they are not safe. If the produce are not safe, they can be rejected.
So Daniel, in scenarios probably where we have natural calamities that farmers will encounter, such as drought or floods that will wipe away an entire production, we have the recent invasion of locusts that really caused a lot of damage to most farms. So what happens in such a situation if you are in contract farming?
Wow, those things are beyond the control of human beings.
Yes.
And when such things happen, it is understandable by the person who has subcontracted you or who has contracted you. That is the person who buys. He'll get to understand, because it's not something that will be on you only, but it is something that is on TV, it is on news, so everybody is seeing, the whole world is seeing. It will not put you out of the contract, but obviously you will not have something to sell, but obviously next time the contract still remains in force. So when that calamity is over, you still come back and continue producing.
What are some of the challenges that farmers in contract farming could face?
Right, one big challenge that contract farmers face is one sometimes about land. I can say land because a farmer would want to use his land effectively, and if he doesn't have enough land, then he may not be able to produce as required. So land can be a big challenge. Another bigger challenge is resources. Sometimes you want to produce without borrowing, but because you don't have, you're forced to borrow. Another bigger challenge is maybe sometimes you can have those who come to you to sign a contract. You can have a number of them coming to you, and after even signing a contract with one, another one comes who offers you a better price than that one, with a better terms. So farmers sometimes get, you get torn between two parties. You do not know whether to produce for, you get a buy, I mean, you remain with the first one or you go to the second one. So that can be a big challenge. Yeah.
But in all of this, you're still advocating for contract farming.
Contract farming is good. Contract farming is good. It's much better than just producing without knowing where to take your produce. Contract farming is good.
And where are we at with that as a country?
It's important that all farmers, if possible, can go to contract farming. And even for those with small scale farmers, they can collectively come together. Your 1 acre, the other 1 acre, the other 1 acre, you can form a kind of an association or a cooperative where now you produce as contract farmers under one name. So I can say, because that one will help save them from the post-harvest losses.
Yes.
You see, and also to negotiate for the price. That's also very, very important. So for Kenya today, that is the way to go. Although it has some disadvantages.
Yes.
And the disadvantage is that when you identify the market, because the way I told you that when you're doing some contract with another party, remember, it is that party that takes all your produce. So there'll be none left for the local market.
For the local fresh market.
Yeah,
yes.
for the local
coming
market.
to that. Tell
Yes.
us more about that.
So with that local market, they'll be left to take only that which is not made, the rejects to the contract market, you see. So the local market will be left to consume only that poor quality, the ones that do not make to the other bigger market. So that's another greater disadvantage. Otherwise, contract farming is good for the farmer, but may not be good for the market, because a certain market, there's a group of people that has been left out. Yes. And those are the local consumers.
And don't we have a body, perhaps, that is supposed to look at that, to make sure that the local fresh market does not suffer?
It's supposed to be there, but it's not. I don't know. I have never seen in Kenya, because right now, the agricultural officers, they hardly come to the farms to see what we do.
What is happening?
Yes, and even to those who come, they do not have most of them do not have. I don't know whether they
don't have the information.
Or even the knowledge of agronomists. I don't know, but it's hard to find the agricultural officers moving from one farm to another, even seeing the type of chemicals that is being used, even seeing the quality of food that is, they don't do that. So whatever thing that is produced is taken to the local market, whether it meets the standard, whether it is of good quality, whether it is safe for them. There's nobody to check, but the government is supposed to check all that.
We still have so many farmers that are selling produce at throwaway prices. Do you feel like there is a knowledge gap that farmers need to be taught and enlightened more about such opportunities such as contract farming?
Sure. There is a knowledge gap. There is an information gap between the market and the producer. Sometimes producers produce things, but they do not know whether it is needed in the market. Sometimes the market needs something, and when they go to the farm, they do not know, they do not get it. So that gap exists more so in the markets in Kenya.
So Daniel, thank you so much. That was very insightful. But before we wrap it up, for 5 years now, you've been a contract farmer. So what has your experience been? What can you share with our viewers today?
I can say contract farming is good. It's a good venture. It's a good way of doing some farming. Although I had told you earlier that there are advantages and disadvantages, but to my side I can say this is a good business. It's a good way to go for everybody who does farming. It's a good way to go.
Well, you've heard it from Daniel that contract farming is the way to go. So many thanks for keeping it KTN Farmers TV. That brings us to the end of our edition today. But as always, we love to hear from you. Write to us through the number that is on your screen. I am your host, Susan Mwangi. Until next time, it's bye-bye from us.